And the client, with the budget gone, had to kind of 3D print and put together casings of his own. So I felt really bad for the client. Yeah, in the end, he had to put out something that was could have been so much better.
Welcome to Stuck in Design, where our founders share candid conversations about design, creativity, and business. Let's begin. Okay, hi Jieyu. So today we have some questions more relating to, I guess, your experience at Stuck. So the first question is, what was the most memorable project that you've ever done with Stuck, and were there some key lessons that you've learned from it?
I mean, honestly, the most memorable project was actually not a client project. It was a self-initiated project that was done almost, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, it's called Hello Singapore. And it was memorable because the whole team was behind it. At that time, the team was really small. And we had to turn around that project, or rather deliver the project by National Day, which was like in a week or two time. And that project idea just came about when having lunch with Zi, and we were just chatting about how do we celebrate local heroes, which is typically missed out in National Day celebrations. So at the time we were celebrating, wanted to celebrate the foreign construction workers that were building Singapore literally. So that project was very memorable for me, yeah.
It seems as though it's quite relevant, especially now, or at least from what I've seen online and things like that, there's been greater, I guess, general awareness of our foreign workers, especially with the whole outbreak in the dormitories. So yeah, I don't know, do you think it will ever come back, like as a second round that Stuck initiates?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's good that the topic or the subject matter has gotten a little bit more interest, and I think it's brought to surface and light a lot of things that goes on behind what we see in Singapore. And I think there's a lot more social issues and things that's happening around us that we should spend time caring for. So I think that's just the general good thing about it. As to start doing another project like this, I don't know, because it did take a lot from us, as in like a lot of energy, and a lot of friends came by to help, right? I mean, there were like Hello Strangers who set up the photo booth, in my emotion that came down to help Rara. So it was really a cool project. I'm not sure we will still try to do one more exactly like that, but we'll definitely still maybe look out for other projects that at that moment in time when you feel about it and you want to use or bring the team, the capability and the capacity of the team to do something about it. Definitely, I think that will be cool.
Yeah, so I mean, what made it the most memorable? Was it in terms of the amount of effort that was put into it, or about the social impact that it was able to bring? Or yeah, I mean, were there any particular lessons that you were able to take from that project?
Well, I think it was very memorable because there was no client involved, and there was no money involved. It was purely from the passion of the team, and it wasn't something that was a project that people had to work on it. It wasn't like you're tasked to be working on this project. So that kind of self-initiated passion and kind of willingness and motivation to do something, that energy is kind of something you can't replicate. So that was really enjoyable, that everyone was putting in extra time and like into the late night where we had to set up at like 8 p.m. just to do photo shoots or photo pop-ups for the construction workers at different locations. Was very interesting. And I think it was also a little bit out of our comfort zone because we never did. It was a little bit like a production project, right? You help them take photos, you print it out, let them send back to their home like those photo booths. But at the same time, we wanted to communicate a message about celebrating this group of people. So then we had to put out a website. We got on radio shows, So it was a little bit like a production thing that we never was comfortable with. As also the subject matter also as well. We never had any experience with going into construction sites or dormitories. We had nothing preparing us for what we were going to face, like the amount of people as well as the environment. So we just went in blind. And I think that's also something that made it really memorable, because you are really out of your comfort zone. It lets you grow and learn and understand yourself and your team a little bit better as well. Yeah.
So on the flip side, were there any projects instead that you were a bit disappointed in, or was there a reason as for this disappointment, and how did you then turn it around?
Yeah, so I'm spoiled for choice. I got a lot of projects that I think can be better. Okay, disappointed with. I think there are along the way there's quite a bit of projects, and not so much disappointed, but you always feel that they somehow could be better. But at the same time, there are projects that you were hoping that it would have been more, maybe because that in terms of impact or in terms of resolution, you were hoping maybe that you could push it a little bit more. But due to many different, I think, reasons and circumstances, things just happen. Yeah, maybe not so much a project. I think most projects have their good and bad. But the ones that typically end up slightly more disappointing would be the ones that are misaligned in certain ways, or that the client wasn't too sure about where he wanted to go, or due to kind of unrealistic or rather non-prepared expectations. I think it's both sides. So like for example, we had a project that was really cool. I mean, the technology was cool, the application was cool, but the client did pay for a full industrial design kind of project. So we did manage to finish to a really nice industrial design concept, and that was ready to move into DFM, which is design for manufacturing, right? But at that time, because of the quotation of certain partners that he got, he chose one that was relatively cheaper. But at the same time, because of that, the manufacturer or the engineering firm that was in charge for this manufacturing didn't really work closely with the design firm. They just took it on, and eventually they didn't deliver at all. So they even breached the contract and did not deliver at all. And the client, with the budget gone, had to kind of 3D print and put together casings of his own. So whatever he spent and did for design, in terms of positioning, color material finishing, and actually it's all doable. It's just that the design for manufacturing phase, the engineering firm didn't really do a good job on that in terms of mechanical and fitting and housing, right? So I felt really bad for the client. In the end, he had to pull out something that was could have been so much better. But I think there's a lot of learning points there. I mean, both for client and us is to ensure that whatever we design, and we must ensure to help, maybe even let the client know that it's really important, engineering, and maybe you should budget a bit more for the engineering and DFN. Of course, naturally, the client has to be comfortable with sharing with you how much budget he has and things like that. So I think it's both learning curve for our side.
It seems as though because it's something that seems so out of control from our consultancy side, simply because we've already tried our best to put forth these recommendations, and then the slump comes when it gets handed over. I guess I can see where the disappointment comes in now, because
as a design house, or as a designer, you feel very disappointed because all the effort that the team has put into to make sure that this potentially has a really kind of selling edge from a design point of view. Naturally, there's many considerations about success in market, right? But you've done your due diligence in the design side, but then it didn't get pushed through, then that typically falls quite disappointing, knowing that also your client didn't get the best out of the deal in that sense. But I mean, that's something interesting is that we're still quite close. We WhatsApp each other very often, me and the client, and knowing his business model now, even when he comes to start to say that, hey, I've got a project and I would like Stark to design, I actually sometimes tell him that you don't need Stark to design. What you can do is you can just get this, components off the shelf, edit it slightly, sometimes even send you the link where to get the components, and you can save, it's going to cost you like, a few thousand, you can save like quite a bit of the consulting fee, right? Because his market didn't really need as well a full-fledged outright industrial design project, because his benefit was already apparent, and his technology is embedded. So design, spending too much on that design aesthetic might not be suitable now. Naturally, I think if he needs to branch into different kind of, and he's going for project-based sales. So looking at his business model, it's not that important. His bang for buck will be better spent when he spends the money on his R&D or on sales acquisition, things like that, rather than trying to get a very nice casing at this moment in time. Unless his clientele starts moving also towards requiring a nice aesthetic, and even nice aesthetic has a different range. So knowing that, it's also through this learning or disappointment in certain parts of his project that along the years we have then discussed and kind of been always keeping in contact and knowing his business growth, therefore being able to just help in different ways.
It seems as though from what you've described with this particular example, right? It seems like it's quite I guess a good example of a good long-term sort of client relationship. And yeah, I mean, having this what I see to be sort of synergy with your clients, have there been any other projects that you think, wow, it went so smoothly and so well simply because you had this synergy with your client?
Yeah, I think the client wavelength matters. And that's something you learn along the way, is to slowly understand your team, and or if you're an independent designer, understand yourself, what kind of parameters you work with, and therefore what kind of client suits you. And over the time, we've started to realize that for Stark, I mean, the positioning and the team dynamic is that we can't deliver a quick turnaround, affordable industrial design skin jobs sometimes. And sometimes it's not that we don't want to do it, but sometimes it's also the motivation and the stage of your client requirements, right? So I think the long story short is that it does help us understand what kind of client profile and I think mindset and client motivation, the reason why they are doing things is very important actually. So other than industrial design, like if you look into more strategy work or research work, right? If you know right up front that the client was not truly, genuinely interested in pushing the boundaries or the environment or advancing his particular discipline or area, then typically Stark will come in as not that useful because Stark will always question, right? I mean, as a team, not so much as a company, but I think the people that we have put together naturally questions, why are you doing this? And is there a better way to do it? And because of that, then the client can either find you really difficult to deal with because you're always questioning me or questioning his team's decision, or he could find you really helpful because it helps him ask the critical questions that sometimes they might be so entrenched in it. So I mean, there have been projects like that, maybe not naming the clients because some of them are still ongoing, but there has been projects like that you find that the outcome is drastically much better and the process is much more enjoyable because it's not so much about delivering a commercial scope project. It's more about the journey of, and both sides learn, right? Especially for design firms, which is very interesting. We go into so many different subject matter and different fields that every time it almost is a new learning experience. While for the client is that because you're asking such critical questions, maybe because you also have a fresh eye and you genuinely want to help them advance, they also find that they learn a lot from you. Then it becomes a very mutually beneficial exchange, even from, let's say, a monetary perspective, because they don't feel that, it's cool. You got these guys and they're not just, transactional. They're not like, okay, I got this phase or scope done and therefore you pay me this amount. But you can feel that they genuinely care about his business or his industry or his motivation and agenda. So I think that always creates a very good synergy of that trust. And then they will share more information. They also get you on board earlier in certain processes that allows you to work with them to come up with fundamental questions in the first place before even a project is scoped out. Yeah.
Has there actually been any clients whom, through the process of maybe a few projects together, that you've sort of developed a friendship with the client? And if so, then how does this affect the working relationship?
I think there's a lot. I think most of the clients, or rather most of the projects, if I'm kind of more hands-on the relationship tends to be deeper. And very often, which is not a good practice, right? You end up sending WhatsApp messages about work, but you also end up sending WhatsApp messages just slowly over time about different things. And like a very good example is we did a project of quite a few years ago, and in the end, it was the same issue that through pivoting and understanding their business a bit better along the way, right? They realized that they couldn't do the design, but they wanted to just roll out certain things in a hack together manner. So they did that, and they're very successful now actually, and they're still hacking things together in the manufacturer side because again, it was the same situation where the technology was more important than the packaging. And already the format was very clear, so there's no need to redesign format or relook at it. The business model was clear. But recently, because we are also looking at launching our own products, right? And they are in the product they are at the other side of the spectrum where they are selling, they are trying to get the sales, and they've got experience in that. So I've been talking to them, asking them for advice about what should we do if we are doing our own product, and what should be the margins, and things like that. Because we, as design consultants, we are very good at the conceptualization part, understanding a little bit of the strategy, and we're good at that. But the actual rollout of it, I think there's still a knowledge gap. And it's nice that over time, although you don't really do a lot of projects together, but the trust has been built, and the relationship, and that their inner compass, or the way that they believe or see things, bring value to the market, is aligned. So with that alignment, you keep that relationship. Yeah. It's rare though. I mean, maybe it's an age thing. It's rare to start hanging out. It's rare to start hanging out. So you still keep in contact, and you can trust this guy, and you ping. They also ping us with certain things in mind. But yeah, we don't really go and hang out. Maybe it's a stage thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, actually, for one of the projects, that was actually with you, Withal. In the end, we kind of like started following each other on social media, and yeah, it seemed a bit like, it's just like meeting new people in school. It felt the same, probably because they were around the same age. Then after a while, then I realized, actually, if they're our clients, should I be restraining some information sharing because that now we follow each other on social media? But yeah, I don't know. It was just a thought that came by, but it went away quite quickly, lah.
I think it's fair, and it's important to just know where the line is. But at the same time, nothing's stopping you from being friends. And even with friends, I because it's NDA, right? So a lot of things you just don't discuss because you know the line, lah. You know that. Like for example, with this client, one of their clients as well. So WhatsApp, and he had this idea that he wanted to do, and he was asking me how to do it, and if we want to do it. And I already knew that there was a conflict of interest because we are actually working on another client's work that is similar to his, similar technology, and then he's thinking of applying in the same industry now. So I just told him that I can't talk to him about this because it's there's a client that we are working with that is similar in this industry. And he respects that, and I think the mature ones typically understands your position because they know that you are working in this. And I think it's equal. He wouldn't want you to be sharing his things with other people, so he actually knows he can trust you when you tell him that you can't share certain things. Then as to being friends, I think that's fine as long as when the discussion goes into work or professional subject matter, you just have to keep it professional. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe just as a last question, it might be a silly question, but knowing that Stuck has, has done different projects in different areas, But if there was actually only one type of project that you think Stuck should do or can do from now on, what do you think it should be?
Okay, I mean, if you ask me personally, if there's only one type of project that Stuck, I would say should do. It's really hard to choose. I think, okay, I mean, what's that disclaimer first, is it? Or rather, I think we will never be able to do only one type. Okay, I think it's not possible. One is because I think knowing Zidon myself, right, we are all very interested in too many things. It can be a bad thing, right? We're just so interested in too many things, and we get bored when we just do one thing, and I think that's why we are in consulting, but that's just from a character point of view, and that's why the team is also quite diverse now, and we're all doing all sorts of funny things, right? And so knowing that, I think Stuck will never end up doing only one type of project. It's unhealthy as well, because I think the world is much more connected now. So you do need a little bit of everything to make something work well. So I think doing one type is also not healthy. But personally, I think I'm interested in going into start doing more community/social /public good kind of project. It can pay well, or it doesn't have to, but I think the idea is that if you have a team with interesting capacity or capability, how do you use that to create impact? I think that has always been what the company is about. But so that kind of project will be interesting. Maybe using a different kind of angle or different kind of technology or different kind of approach to start working on things that's slightly closer to home. That would be nice for Stuck to do more of. Yeah, I think.
Hi, I'm Desiree and I'm one of the hosts for Stuck in Design. We hope our podcast has been helpful in sharing some perspectives on design, creativity and business. So now we'd like to hear from you. Drop us a comment or a DM online wherever you find us with a question and we'll answer them in an upcoming episode. See you next week.